All right. So welcome everybody today to Tucson Audubon's virtual presentation of Birding the Calendar, Where to Go Birding in June with Luke Safford. As we start off all of our events, it's to tell everyone what our mission here at Tucson Audubon is, and we are here to inspire people to enjoy and protect birds. And we feel like one of the best ways to do that is to get out there and look at them. We've got so many beautiful areas in this part of the country, so many wonderful birds that we feel like if you get out there, you can't help but be inspired, and you're not going to be able to help but care and protect for these birds in the future. Um, and so with that, many of you know Luke Safford. Luke is our Director of Engagement here at Tucson Audubon. Been here for several years now, birded all over the area. So when Luke says to go birding somewhere, I always listen. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll toss it over to you, Luke.
You always listen, huh, Danito?
Always.
That's good. That's good. As your supervisor, that's a good thing for you to listen to me. No, I'm messing with you. Hey, welcome everyone. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. And yeah, we're going to talk about where to go birding in June in Southeast Arizona. And so we're looking at a beautiful summer tanager here. And hopefully you get a little, I don't know, birding pun or whatever. It's middle of summer. It's the hottest month of Southeast Arizona calendar, and so if it's summer, we got to have a summer tanager. So that's why I had to put this one up there. And just as a reminder, like let's talk a little bit about what to expect when we go birding in June here in the Tucson area. We know it's just going to be hot. This is probably if there's the weakest birding month in the calendar in Southeast Arizona, I would say June is probably one of the weakest months, just because a lot of spring migration is already all through, so there's not a lot of migration happening. It's just so hot. There's a lot of breeding going on, so some of the birds are kind of in some ways a little harder to see because they are more concealed on their nests. And it's just hot. So actually, uh, I will be honest, the first time I ever came birding in Southeast Arizona was the month of June. It was June of 2009. And I was living in Washington State at the time. And my wife wanted to go somewhere hot for our anniversary, get somewhere really nice. And I wanted to go somewhere where there were birds. So we ended up coming to Tucson in June of 2009, and it was definitely hot. And we did have a lot of good birds. So even though if it's a weak month of birding in our area, it's still so good. That's the beauty of where we live, is that no matter what time of the year, there's always lots of good birds out. It's just, again, really hot in June. So when you consider like where you're going to go birding or when you're going to go, just think of going early in the morning or going to higher elevation. Now, we'll talk about three different spots today, and actually none of them are really super high elevation. One of them is kind of like mid elevation, and the other ones are pretty low actually. So, but what one of the low spots has a really thick cottonwood canopy. And so anytime you're underneath the canopy and in the shade, it that's a welcome place to be in the month of June. And then the other one is more of an evening type of adventure. So um, it's hard to find a good local park to go birding at in June. It's just kind of a tough month for that. But again, there's a lot of good birding. I would say, as I did say, it is kind of the thick of breeding season. So I want to emphasize like not using playback at all this time of year. Birds are on their nests, or birds are getting ready to do their breeding. Um, and it's just not a time when we want to mess around with them or anything like that. So just about for any bird, I wouldn't do any playback. So I just want to emphasize that for the month of June. And then, hey, Danito, could you turn down your volume just a little bit? I'm hearing that a little bit through my headphones. Um, thanks, dude. But then some of our final migrants are still either just getting back or getting in through the month of June, especially yellow-billed cuckoo. That's our last one to come in. So it's a good time of year to go and look for those. Purple martins are back. In fact, I saw purple martins the other day at Sabino Canyon. So they're already back, but they're a kind of a late arrival. And then common nighthawk, there's really only like one spot or a few different areas in Southeast Arizona where you can get common nighthawk, but they do come in pretty late, kind of in the Sonoyta area around Kentucky Camp. La Cienega is a good spot for common nighthawk, but those are just kind of coming back. But that's some things to think about for June. Getting that higher elevation where the trogons are breeding, that's a good idea to do that. Now, let's talk about the first spot where I went and investigated. Actually, I went on. I was talking with Kathy Anderson. I think Kathy's on the call with us today, and through email. And one of the spots that she goes a lot is Oracle State Park. And so I was like, I've never brought up Oracle State Park in the Where to Go Birding series. So my plan was to go to Oracle State Park, and I'd only been there like one time, so I needed to explore it a little bit to kind of get an idea of how to talk about it and how to think through visiting that location for birding. And then so I was going to go do that, and I got sidetracked, and I went up a little bit higher to Pepper Sauce. So I'm sorry, Kathy. We'll do Oracle State Park here in another month or a couple months or whenever. But I got sidetracked by Pepper Sauce. I was going to do Pepper Sauce and then come down to Oracle State Park. But the birding at Pepper Sauce was so good, I decided to just focus on that. So Pepper Sauce Canyon is, not only does it have a really cool name, like I love that name for a canyon, Pepper Sauce. It's a very good birding location. It has its own campground, and it's on the north side of the Catalina Mountains. So from Tucson, you can theoretically you can access it by going up to like Summerhaven and then coming down the back road on the north slope of the Catalinas down into Oracle. That road is really, really bad. So I've done that before. Yeah, it cuts down on mileage, but yeah, don't do that. You're going to want to go around and go up through Oro Valley, Catalina, go past what's that, Saddlebrook, and then come around to Oracle, and then up through Oracle. So here, I'm going to show you the map of just how to get there and where Pepper Sauce Canyon and Campground is located. So let me get to this right here. Okay. You should be able to see Google Maps here. Here's the city of Tucson. And then this 77, this is Oracle. And you just follow Oracle Road up 77 and past Catalina State Park, past Saddlebrook. And then you continue Oracle, this little town of Oracle is right here. See, this green right here is the Coronado National Forest and the Catalina Mountains. And so you'll follow signs. There's good signs for Oracle State Park. And so you follow the signs that come by American Ave. And then you'll see this little turn off here. And then this takes you by Oracle State Park, which we'll talk about some other time. And then there's a zip line adventures. There's a big, let's see if it comes in here. Right around in here somewhere. But right around the zip line spot here, let's see if that comes up here. Let's zip line. Arizona Zip Line Adventures. Whoop. That's not what I wanted. I wanted this. Okay. So you can see, you just follow the signs for the zip line adventures too. That's really easy. And right about in here, the road is paved all the way until about Arizona Zip Line Adventures. And then it becomes gravel. And this part of the road is easy. It's not a bad gravel road at all. And you kind of weave up here, you'll go by, there's a little ranch right here, but usually when I go by here, there's some Harris hawks. So this is a good spot to kind of look for Harris hawks as you're driving by. And so this is all gravel right here. And then you come to Pepper Sauce Campground, which is right here. If we scroll in a little bit and look at the different layers, you can see here well, I'm going to show you some pictures of this too. But there's a little parking area right here on the left. In fact, you can see a car parked right there, that white thing right there. Some other cars is kind of like you can camp over here on this left side as well. But that's not the main campground. The real campground is over on the other side. But you can park here. And then what I normally do is walk this road up to our left. And I'm going to show you some pictures. We're going to talk about that and what kind of birds we can see there. You can see this this whole section right here is really, really green. There's like sycamore, just like really thick sycamores, and I think some cottonwoods in there, and oak and juniper. It's just really, really beautiful and very shaded. So let me get back to our PowerPoint here. So this is the gravel road I was talking about that you would come up from, kind of go into Oracle, and then you're going to go south towards the mountains. And so this is actually looking towards, like, you would be, this is kind of a different angle. This is like looking towards like if you're driving up this way, you'd be going to Oracle. So it's kind of like the other way. But Pepper Sauce Campground is just on the other side. And it's a really nice campground. I don't know if any of you like camping to go along with your birding. But here's one of the little campsites there. It's super nice. It has one of those, it's a national forest campground. So it's first come, first serve, but there's a little bear box things to put all your food in and stuff so that the black bears don't come and get you at night. And nice tables. There's bathrooms. There's the bathroom right there. So that's one of the questions always with this different locations that we come across. Like, are there bathrooms there? Yes, there are at the campground. That's where you can go. And so, like, it's a whole that kind of loop through this, and you can see how shaded it is. Acorn woodpeckers and brown crested flycatchers everywhere in this campground. Bell's vireos and yellow warblers. It's very beautiful, and this is one of the few areas right there in the Catalinas where yellow-billed cuckoos do come. So, like, if you're there in middle to late June, early July, this is a good spot for yellow-billed cuckoo. They really like the kind of the sycamore oak kind of habitat right there, and it's beautiful. So let's talk about the birding. Enough about the campground and how to get there and all that. If you have any questions, we can revisit and go back to that too. Well, I guess maybe before the birds, like where to park, all the logistical stuff. So you can see this is that same, we go back. So here's looking towards Oracle at the sign, and here's looking like, this is like from the Jeep, you can kind of see a road that goes back behind the Jeep. That's a road actually that I'll talk about that you walk up. That become more of like a really like 4x4 kind of Jeep road. The rest of the road kind of goes off to the left that goes up towards Summer Haven. But this is a good spot to park, and you can even go down this road a little bit more, and there's some other parking spots there, or you can park in the campground if there's an open location there. You do have to reserve those spots. There's some money, like a fee associated with the other side. So, but there's a lot of spots to park around here. You can check that out. Let's talk a little bit more about what to expect when it comes to birding in this area. So I like to walk or hike up. It's hard to call it hiking when you're walking really slow. So I like to walk up this road right here. This is what becomes the kind of Jeep road. And so you can kind of get an idea of like what kind of footing and what kind of trail it is or road it is that you're walking up. But I like to walk up that first. So when you're down here in the lower part of the canyon, it's much more shaded. And so I like to save that birding for later on in the morning. So first morning, I want to walk up and go up this road. There's a little bit of an incline, gradual incline, not real steep, but it is you are walking up. You're walking up in elevation, and there are some rocky areas or some creek crossings, but they're usually dry. There's a little bit of water in there. I went there a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago, something like that. And there's a little bit of water in some portions of the creek, but it wasn't anything crazy or anything like that. Um, but just know that the road isn't as good like this further up. It's just a little rocky, but it's really not that bad. I usually walk up about 1.5 miles, so about 3 miles round trip. I'm not sure how far this road goes up, but it goes up pretty far. I think it goes up to a place called Rice Peak or Rice Mountain, Rice something, I believe. But it goes pretty far up there. I do know of some people who have gone up further, excuse me, and have gotten some higher elevation birds as they go up. This can also be a good spot for Montezuma quail. I was just thinking of that. So just as you walk further up, maybe not right down here where you're parking, but as you walk up further, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Like mix of sycamore, juniper, oak, mesquite. Some of the slopes as you walk up here, so there will be slopes on either side. Some are drier than others, and so you'll just expect different species of birds in the drier areas than the wetter areas. The lower elevation, and we'll talk about this, you'll have a different kind of set of birds. Then as you walk up this road, it'll change a little bit. And it just kind of depends on what kind of vegetation is in that area. So like when you're around mesquite trees, you can expect Lucy's warblers. If you're around more oak trees, think more black-throated gray warbler. Um, as you're in the junipers, you can think like Woodhouse's scrub jay. But then as you get more into like thicker oak and maybe a little higher, then you can think more Mexican jay. So it just kind of changes a little bit. The sycamore trees are much thicker around the campground, and that's why it finished there. As I said, just there's more shade. You leave the shady parts for birding when it's hotter. All right. So usually about 3 miles round trip. That's what I do. You could go less or you could go more. Again, here's what the road looks like. This is actually it gets a little bit more in some areas, kind of bigger, not huge rocks, but kind of bigger or kind of more rutted areas. But this is generally what it looks like. This is a little further up, and it gives you a taste of what to expect. You can see there's a bit of an incline, and then there's just depending on the canyon, just some shady spots, some really sunny spots, and you just kind of pick your way through all of it. Okay, let's talk about the birds. So in June, okay, Pepper Sauce Canyon, I think is really underbirded. Here's a couple reasons why. Pinal County itself doesn't get a lot of action from birders. People are normally, I think kind of like I do. So most of the time when I think about where to go birding, I'm going to go south. I like to go Madera Canyon. I like to go Tubac. I like to go Sycamore Canyon in outside of Nogales. I like to go to Patagonia, right? We like to go south. I think I like to go south because it takes me closer to Mexico. It's a little more wild. There's a better chance for, like in my mind, if I'm closer to Mexico, I'm closer to Mexican birds. That's kind of like what I'm normally thinking. That's not always correct. But we think of elegant trogon. We think of red-faced warbler. Red-faced warbler would go up Mount Lemmon. You won't get elegant trogon or red-faced warbler here, but you get a really amazing variety of good specialty birds, even on the north slope of these Catalinas or other areas in Pinal County. And it's just really, it's cumbersome to get there, right? It takes me an hour and 10 minutes to get from my house up to Pepper Sauce Canyon. I live right in Midtown, like Fort Lowell and Tucson Boulevard. I don't live anywhere crazy, but it still takes me. I have to go all the way up through, that Oracle Road up through Oro Valley and all around. And if I'm going to drive an hour and 10 minutes, like my mind usually goes to, all right, I'm going to Patton Center. I'm going to Patagonia, you know, because that's also where my friends are at. So like I like to go there. But I think we would do well in thinking outside the box a little bit and go in a different direction. And instead of going south, going north. So pepper sauce is very underbirded. There's 84 species recorded there in June. I don't think there's the way eBird is set up now. I'm still trying. They changed some things. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate it. I can't see how many checklists have ever been there in June, but I believe not very many at all. So I think there's a lot of potential for new species to be recorded there in the month of June. Black-throated gray warbler being a good example of what you can see when you're there. When I was there about a week and a half ago, I had 9 species of warblers. Things were moving through in migration. Of course, in June, there won't be the migration effect there, but you do have a lot of birds that breed through there. You have the black-throated gray, you have Lucy's, yellow warbler, Virginia's warbler, and you could still get some others through there as well. So one cool thing about this canyon is that you have a mixture of kind of lower elevation birds, like this summer tanager that really likes cottonwoods, lower elevation sycamore trees, mesquite. So like in that lower area around the campground, you'll have summer tanagers everywhere through there. Lots of summer tanagers. But then as you walk up that road and you get up to just a little higher elevation, thicker oak, I think there's a couple pine trees in there, some juniper. You get into habitat more for hepatic tanager. Let me silence this. So hepatic won't be right there in the campground area, but if you walk up about like a mile or so up that canyon, that's a really good spot for some of those more higher elevation birds. So that's where like black-throated gray warbler will be. That's where hepatic tanager will be, and Mexican jay, and species of that kind of elevation. So you can kind of think through that a little bit when you're trying to figure out which birds you're going to be looking for. So Bell's vireo is another bird that you're going to get like all over the place when in that campground and in your first. Well, actually, I think I had Bell's vireos all the way up that whole mile and a half that I walked. They're like singing nonstop. I'm trying to remember how many Bell's vireos I had, but it was one of the most common birds on the list. In fact, let's go look at that list right now. Let's go look at that. It'll give you an idea too of kind of what to expect. Let me go to bird list. Let me pull that up. Boom, view all, pepper sauce. Okay. Oh, 11 Bell's vireos, and I guess not. There was more turkey vultures and there more brown crested flycatchers too. But tons of Bell's vireos. You can see Plumbeus vireo on here. So when you get into that sort of area where you can get hepatic tanager and Mexican jay, then that's when you start thinking through like, all right, now I can start finding Plumbeus vireo here. Hutton's vireo will be more in the oaks. So like it's cool to walk through up that road because you kind of get into these different habitats and you can find different species that are more prone to be found in those specific types of vegetation zones. The same thing with Gila woodpeckers. Once I walked about, so I had this one, actually, I think there should be 2 on here, but both the Gila woodpeckers I had were like right in the campground area, right where I parked. So like I got out of the car, I heard Bell's Vireo, I heard brown crested flycatcher, and I heard Gila woodpecker. And then when I walked through the campground later on, I had, I think, 2 Gila woodpeckers there. But once I started the walk up that road and I got away from where I parked, there were no more Gila woodpeckers. Those are all lower. But then uh, Ladderback and Acorn were kind of through the whole section, so Gila woodpeckers disappear, but then other things are there. So that's just something to think about too. All right, let me go back to here. But Bell's Vireos everywhere. Ash-throated and brown-crested flycatchers. Okay, so this brown-crested flycatcher here on the right, man, this is like if they could all look like this and be that yellow, oh, that would help things a lot. And if all ash-throated flycatchers were as pale yellow as this one on the left, that would help things a lot. They're not always that way. So, but you get both. You get both. You get ash-throated more on the drier canyon hillsides, and then you get the brown crested more in the thicker sycamore kind of thicker trees. But they'll both be through there. Here I'm gonna play the calls for each of them. It's just good for us to listen to the differences along with seeing, the thicker bill on the brown crested, usually brighter yellow, the tip of the tail being the rust coming all the way down to the tip of the tail. Always birds that we have to kind of think through and work to identify, but the voice helps. And so I know I've played these calls before, but we're going to do it again. Just repetition, right? We need that to be better birders. So let me play ash throated first. All right, so that's the ash throated calling. Now let's listen to brown crested. More fluty. That's how I describe brown crested. It sounds more fluty, more musical. Ash throated, just kind of, I don't know, playing and grinding, and brown crested just more fluty and musical, if that helps. But you'll hear both of them there. They'll be all over. Oh man, my phone's ringing. I need to just turn that off. But just be aware that I didn't get any dusky cap flycatcher. I don't know if it quite gets up to the elevation where you'll get dusky capped. But if you walk more than that 1.5 miles and you get up into some higher elevation, you could get dusky capped all the way up there too. So just be aware of that. So here's a spot that I like that I found some really good birds around this big rock. So I was trying to keep the mileage on my list as I was walking from where I parked. So about 0.85 miles up from the parking lot, or not really a lot, the parking area. As you walk up that road, you'll see this big rock on your right. And I'm calling it Rufous Crown Sparrow Rock. I don't know. I haven't came up with a better name for it yet. So if any of you get up there and you have a better name for it, you can let me know. But until then, I'm going to call it Rufous Crown Sparrow Rock. You can see as you go up this trail, like as I said, there are some drier areas that are more scrubby, and then there are some wetter areas that have thicker oak, juniper, sycamore trees. So in the drier areas, as you can see here on the right, this is good habitat for Rufous Crown Sparrow. And so I found a few different, I think I had 2 or 3 Rufous Crown Sparrow sightings, or hear them. I should have put the call on here for us to listen. It's got a pretty distinctive song call. But it's actually, Rufous Crown Sparrow can be a little difficult to find at different times. They're pretty secretive. A lot of times you hear them, but this is a really good spot to look. Here's what Rufous Crown Sparrow looks like. It's kind of towhee-ish a little bit in the way that it acts. So doesn't always come up for a really good look like this. A lot of times it'll be more just right in the scrub, kind of down in the thick of things. But towhee like, and but it has this really nice kind of black malar, white malar stripe here with the eye ring and the rufous crown, of course. But this right here is a good spot for it. And from about 0.85 miles up and further up on the drier slope, mostly on the right, as you walk up, most of that drier stuff will be on the right. You can look for Rufous Crown Sparrow. Another good one there is rock wren. So if you see these big rocky areas on your right side as you're walking up, pay close attention to look for any of these little wrens that are kind of bobbing up and down. They kind of remind me of spotted sandpipers or American dippers with like how they bob. But they're very vocal too. So like listen to their calls ahead of time. And they often are singing from these rocks, not always exposed like this, but sometimes they will be in those kind of bob up and down. Fairly plain brownish bird, but their actions are pretty neat. So, and this is a good area. So again, this drier slope, can't really see any of the rocks here. I think maybe once you get past some of these oaks, there's some more rocky areas, but kind of around that 3/4 of a mile to a mile kind of section is a good spot for those two birds, Rufous Crown Sparrow, rock wren. Also a good spot for Scott's oriole. They like that same sort of area. Let's see. Oh, Virginia's warbler. This is one of my favorite sightings when I was out there. This is not my picture. I didn't have a real camera with me, just my phone. But this is one of my favorite sightings when I was out there, and I do think that they breed there as you go up a little higher. So this was like around the see, I went up about a mile and a half, and I think it was around a mile and a quarter when I started hearing. I think I got like 2 or 3 Virginia warblers, and so it was right kind of in that area where they were singing, and I do think that they breed there. That's also a good spot for blue-gray gnatcatcher. So Virginia's warbler, blue-gray gnatcatcher, they kind of, the same thing like with Rufous Crown Sparrow, rock wren, Virginia's and blue-gray gnatcatcher, they kind of are in that same sort of habitat together. And so you reach that habitat on this road as you walk up. It's a really nice location there. Another fun bird that you can see and or hear on this walk is this guy. All right, you can't see him right now, but he's going to walk across the road. Check this out. This is right past where I parked. Let me start this video here. Oh. Wild turkey, pepper sauce. Even got a little bit of narration for me there at the end. Wild turkey. Let's watch that again. They're running across the road. So they do like to hang out like right after where you park at, and you start walking up the road. There's some, you could kind of see it a little bit in the video, kind of like this kind of dispersed camping off on the right there. And the turkey's like hanging out right in that area. There's not a whole lot of spots in Pinal County where you can get wild turkey, but that's a good spot for it right there. Always a fun one to see. Let's see. Any questions when it comes to pepper sauce? Any questions at this point, Danito, or anyone else?
So just a real quick question though, kind of going back to what you had talked about at the beginning. Diane was asking, what do you mean by playback? So this might be a good opportunity. I think we're real familiar with it, but it might just be a good opportunity to go over it for everybody.
Sure thing. So here, if I'm gonna stop my share, and if you can see me talking, I have my phone in front of me, and so on my phone I have an app, the Merlin Bird ID app, which is really cool right there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Hopefully you can. But on it, it's basically like a bird book on your phone that you can just pull out of your pocket, and you can go to explore. Let's pick up Bell's Vireo. I'll go to Bell's Vireo here. I wish I could show this to you on Bell's Vireo. Okay. So on the Bell's Vireo, one of the options down here is the different songs that they do. So like I could play the song here. I'm gonna play it in my microphone. Hopefully, I think you should be able to hear that. But what happens is, so like if I play this call around one of the different Bell's Vireo's kind of areas at Sweetwater where they're nesting, I'll play this call, and then these birds hear this other Bell's Vireo coming from my phone, and they want to either attack it, or if it's a mate, they want to mate with it, or if it's just another, they want to drive it out of the territory. Maybe they're scared off by it. Maybe if I play it loud, maybe it sounds like over over aggressive, and it could just move these birds out of their little area. So it just becomes really disruptive to the birds themselves. People do playback so that they can get a better look at the bird, because often what happens is you'll play it, the bird will come out to investigate and to look at it. And that's when everyone can take their pictures. We feel good about ourselves and the pictures we get, but we do disrupt the birds. So,
Audubon
yeah,
has songs on their app as well.
yeah, they definitely do, Diane. There's a few different apps that you can get that off of, or sometimes people download it onto their phone themselves from places like Xenocanto or others. And so I just wanted to encourage people to not do any playback during breeding season. For our Tucson Audubon trips, we do our best to make sure that all of our leaders are adhering to the American Birding Association's kind of code of ethics. I don't think they call it a code of ethics anymore, but when it comes to playback, there's some discretion involved. But then if there's any question of whether you should do it or not, then the answer is no. And so I just want to, I guess, not just encourage people not to use playback in June, but tell you not to. I'll just put it that way. Don't use it during breeding season for birds. And so that's what playback is just playing their song, getting them to come out so that everyone can see it.
Wonderful. Got a couple more questions for you. And this is just a good opportunity to talk about the festival too. But Veronica asked if we are going to be having any field trips up in Oracle, Pepper Sauce Canyon area during the festival.
We do have one, and it's led by our own Kathy Anderson, who's on the call somewhere. But it's already filled. It's already filled. I plan on. I decided to go somewhere different for my field trip in July, and I already had the June one. It had already been planned out, as Ramona said to Ramsey. But I believe I'm not going to be doing a field trip in August, but in September, I'll be doing a field trip to Pepper Sauce Canyon, and we can even give you all the first dibs at signing up for that. We can send that out. That'd be kind of cool.
Wonderful. Thank you, Luke. And then Marlene asks, I know like you were saying, June's a little bit slow everywhere, but are there any times of year that Pepper Sauce Canyon is particularly birdy? What are your favorite times of year to go there?
I would probably say May and early September. Early September is super. August is good too. August is good. May is really good. Late April is good. Early September is super surprising when it comes to birding here. And I'm not saying that because I'm going to lead a field trip there in early September, but it's just a good time. It really is. It's hard to pick where to go birding in June. June's kind of a tough month, um, but June at Pepper Sauce would be nice. You just get there early, you walk up that road early, and then come and enjoy walking through the campground underneath the shade. That's why I picked it. But I would, yeah, those times a year. In the winter is different. Winter is it probably wouldn't be the spot that I would necessarily pick first thing in winter unless I was like wanting to add something to my Pinal County list. It's more of a spring and early fall migration type of spot for me.
So when you say early, what's early to you? I saw your list of when you did the birding count that you were up on the mountain at the crack before dawn. So
Yeah.
what do you mean by early?
Yeah, you don't need to get out there before the sun comes up, but especially in June, like 6 a.m. 6 a.m. is a good time to start birding. Because if you want, if you're going to drive up there, you want to be there you want to make it worthwhile. So you want to be up there for at least a couple hours, and you can see it. Yeah, a couple Fridays ago, so I guess it was about 11 days ago, I went up there and I started at 6:14 a.m. and then I birded there for about 3.5 hours. By the time I left, that was like just before 10 o'clock, you could definitely tell that the birds were not as active as they were when I first got there. And even in June, it becomes even more evident, like around, I would say probably around 9:30, like the bird life will kind of not shut down, but it'll be pretty quiet and pretty slow. So I'd recommend getting there between 6:30, birding for about 2.5, 3 hours. That's what I would recommend. It's early, right? But just drink some coffee. Know there's a bathroom there at the campground, and enjoy it. Because you also, if you're going, so here's something that I want to bring up that I'm glad that I just remembered. If you go there on a weekend, and you're there anytime after after about 8, 9 o'clock, you know what? You're going to hear a lot going up that road, a lot of ATVs. It's a very, like this northern part of the Catalinas up, between Oracle and the mountains. There's just a lot of people that go out there on their ATVs on those roads, and there will be ATVs that go up the road that we walk up. So to beat them, you also have to get there early as well. Or I would suggest going on a weekday, because if you go up there on a weekend, you're just gonna have a lot more people, and they're not always doing the activities that are helpful when it comes to birding. So just keep that in mind. All right. Any other questions before we head off? Here's the rest of the list here.
We are good to go.
All right. Cool. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Got a couple other spots I want to talk about. Okay. So I am going to put a little plug in for Clark Crossing along the De Anza Trail. Now, I've talked about the De Anza Trail a lot of different times. And so many of you are probably already familiar with it, but the De Anza Trail goes along the Santa Cruz River, south to Tucson. Actually, I mean, it's a longer trail. It starts in Mexico and goes up through all the way into California. It's the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail. But the portion I'm talking about that is really good for birding is there along the Santa Cruz River from about Tubac down to Nogales. The specific area I wanted to talk about today, though, is the area around Clark Crossing, which right here you can see Tubac and Bridge Road is up here on the north, kind of the top part of the screen here. And then Clark Crossing, about a mile and a half south of that Ron Morris Park area. So there's a big parking area right along the frontage road at the Clark Crossing right here. And you park at that frontage road, walk down the road, and there's it meets the trail right there. This 3- thing right here is a gate. And so you could go north up towards Tubac, or you can go south down towards Santa Gertrudis Lane and Tamacacori. And so for green kingfisher, that's the bird that everyone wants to see when they go down there. The reason that June is a good time is that the green kingfishers are like, it's kind of their breeding season, and there's surprisingly a lot of breeding pairs that nest along that stretch of river. So last July, it was July 1st when I got to participate in an Arizona field ornithologist survey, where me and a few other people walked down the middle of the river. I was wearing my chest waders. I don't know if it really helped. I think I had a leak. Either that or I just sweated so much inside those waders. But we ended up seeing 8 different individual green kingfishers between Tubac and the Santa. We didn't even walk down all the way Santa Gertrudis Lane. So like the Tamacacori area. Most of those 8 different individuals that we saw were right around Clark's Crossing or just south of Clark's Crossing. So what happens in June is that the river, I'll put it in quotes, the river it starts to dry up a little bit, and sometimes doesn't even reach all the way up to Tubac. Last July, when we were doing our survey, there was only a little small pockets of water north of Tubac. Once you started getting south of Tubac, there's beginning to be some different stretches of running water. And once you got around Clark's Crossing, there was a more steady flow. And so around that area, we had these individuals or these little families of green kingfishers. Now, you're probably not going to be walking down the middle of the river, but if you go to the crossing here, this is a good spot right where the river crosses the road. Kind of walk up to the road, and you can look up either upstream or downstream, and that's a good spot to just kind of wait and look for green kingfishers. I will tell you, last year there was a breeding pair somewhere just north of the crossing road. And so, but what I would do is I would, you can see if you walk north, there are some little spurs off the trail that go to different overlooks across the river. And so just walking up maybe a quarter of the mile up from the road and a quarter of the mile down from the road, and exploring those different spots that overlook the river, and just being patient when you come up to the river to look or listen for green kingfisher. Now, in this picture, this green kingfisher looks huge, right? It looks like a really, but here's the thing: when you see them in person, green kingfishers are pretty small. They're really small. So like, I would say it's probably like, vermilion flycatcher size almost. And so they can perch on, you can see how small this little branch is that the kingfisher is perched on. It seems like they could almost even perch on just like a blade of grass, and they don't always perch really high. Like belted kingfishers usually kind of perch higher over the water, and then they, dive bomb down into it. Green kingfishers could be like, it could be perched on a rock in the middle of the river, or on like a little, 4-foot or 3-foot little stump that comes up, or stick that comes up out of the water, something like that. So you just look kind of lower as well along the river at all the different possible perches. And when you do that and you take your time, not only will you possibly see a green kingfisher, but you'll come upon black phoebes, you'll have yellow-breasted chats, You'll have song sparrows. You'll have maybe varied buntings like could be kind of around on the edges there. But that I would encourage you, it's a good time to go and look for green kingfisher. Just be mindful that it is kind of like nesting breeding season. So you don't want to like disturb them in any way, but just kind of be patient and just, get up to those different areas where you can overlook the water and just kind of almost like you're hunting, just like kind of creep up and look around. And they're kind of pretty flighty too. So, to just kind of be aware of that, listen to their call before you go, so that you can just kind of be aware of what you're also listening for. But yes, it's a good area also for thick-billed kingbird. It's actually a good spot for all sorts of kingbirds: thick-billed kingbird, tropical kingbird, Cassin's kingbird. You could get western kingbirds as you walk down that road, like where you park, right there along the frontage road. Where you park, you can get western king. So you could get a 4 kingbird day just right there from your bird walk along that Clark Crossing area. But thick-billed kingbirds will be nesting there. It's a good time of year. Thick-billed kingbirds just came in to our area probably about a week and a half ago, or maybe 2 weeks. And so they'll stick around until the first week of September. So don't miss your opportunity to see these guys. They have these huge bills. They're a little darker up on their crown than other kingbirds, and pretty white throat, all this white chest, all the way to kind of a very, very pale yellow belly. So you can see here in this picture. And again, this is kind of where Clark Crossing is at. Okay.
Hey Luke, before you move off of that, is there any way, Veronica was asking if there was a way to see that legend in the bottom right, or did you kind of crop it?
I cropped it out. Yeah, so I'll explain the legend, the three little lines right here. That's a gate. And then this red dash right here, this is the trail. The Dan's trail that goes, and then this 1.2 miles is down to Makakori National Historic Park. This 0.9 is up to there's a little you can see this little intersection right here. 0.9 miles to this intersection, and then it's like another point. I can't see what's underneath there, but I think it's just like another less than a quarter mile up to the or maybe a quarter mile up to the bridge road. And then this is I-19 here on the left. So here, yeah, that I should probably do that. Let's go to Google Maps, and I'll type in Clark Crossing Road, Rio Rico. So first I'll go to this layer. You can see, I'll scroll back, Nogales to the south, Green Valley to the north, of course, Tucson up here further to the north. And the parking area. So there's this frontage road. So you'll get on the frontage road. You can either take the 2-back exit up here. That's usually what I'll do. I'll take the 2-back exit, and then I'll go south on the frontage road. And from the frontage road, change to this layer, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. But there's this big parking area right here, right on the east side of the frontage road, and you park there, and then you walk down Clark Crossing. This is an area where you could get western kingbird in this kind of drier area. And as you walk down this road, then you'll start seeing Cassin's kingbirds, tropical kingbirds, thick-billed kingbirds, and then the river crosses here, and you'll see the trail. Hopefully that helps. Any other questions when it comes to green kingfishers and the Clark Crossing? Okay. Let's go to our next spot. Closer to home. So both of those are Clark Crossing. It's about an hour away for me. Pepper Sauce Canyon, about an hour away from me, living in Midtown. It's hard, and I was trying to think of a park or something in Tucson. I always like to have a spot that's a little closer to home to go to. But if if I was going to go and do any birding or any nature watching in June in Tucson, this is what I would do. I would go do a Sabino Canyon night hike. So I actually went and did this last Friday night. This is one of my buddy's kids. This is Hunter, and boy, the kids love being out here. And I actually didn't bring my binoculars, but had a good list of just like 20 species, starting at about 6 o'clock and walking up just over a mile on the paved road up Sabino Canyon. If you've never been to Sabino Canyon in the evening, it's fantastic. You get great looks at black-throated sparrow. You get purple martins flying everywhere. We had some purple martins. We had common porwheels calling at night. Not really at night. It was more like 8 o'clock, something like that. But they're always calling first thing when when it's dusk. We also had something else too. Lesser nighthawks were calling everywhere as we were walking down. That was pretty cool. And a few other birds. I always get northern cardinals. We get all the expected species. We had a roadrunner right in front of us. And so it's just, and like I said, I didn't even have my binoculars, and I was able to get like 20 something species starting at 6 o'clock in the evening. But what's the best part about doing Sabino Canyon night hikes is not only the birds, but you also get a lot of opportunity to see other wildlife. And so one of them is tiger rattlesnakes. This is a tiger rattlesnake. This isn't from last Friday. We actually had black-tailed rattlesnake last Friday. There's opportunity for all sorts of snakes. Black-tailed tiger rattlesnake, western diamondback, coral snake, variable sand snake, king snake, garter snake. There's a lot of different reptiles that you can see out there. Gila monsters, of course, depending on the time of year. So we did have seen canyon tree frogs. We didn't have any Sonoran desert toads yet, but as we get into June, the reason I bring it up for June is that Sonoran desert toads are starting to really show up. And so this is a video I took from a few years ago, sometime in late June, early July. And you'll be able to see a few of these Sonoran desert toads out here in this kind of pond area of Sabino Creek, and be able to hear them a little bit. My wife and I think one of our kids or one of our friends' kids, you can hear them. But there's tons, and you can't see all the toads in here, but there's probably about 30 to 40 Sonoran desert toads in this little pond part of the creek, and they were mating, and they're at some points really loud. So they weren't as loud in this video, but it's the only one I still have. So I'm gonna play it here.
Look at the happy couple. Oh my goodness, this is embarrassment.
So you can see one of the frogs right here.
Whoa, we got some action over there. Whoa.
You can hear them doing their little call there. And all these different spots where you can see the water moving, those are all Sonoran desert frogs. And when so here they're all in the water, but as we get into monsoon season and like right at dusk, you'll have these Sonoran desert frogs just come out and be on the road. It's a paved road that you walk up. And so they'll just be on the road, and you'll see these huge frogs. They're much bigger than a green kingfisher. Green kingfisher are really small compared to them, and they're huge. And so it's just I think it's like one of those experiences that we have in Tucson to go and to walk a place like Sabino in the evening that you can't overlook, you can't miss. You have to go do it. And I'll probably be putting together, I haven't talked with you, Danito, yet about this, but I want to put together a couple different night hikes that I'll lead in the month of probably not June, but the month of July, late June, maybe into early to middle July, where we'll do some different night hikes together, just pretty laid back, but go and listen for porwheels and other birds, of course, but then to kind of take in the wildlife together. So be looking for that. And if you have a chance, just go do that on your own. Get there about half an hour to as it gets hotter, about a half an hour before sunset is probably the perfect time to get there. Remember, it's like there's a $10 fee for parking there if you don't have a pass, but get there about a half an hour before sunset and start walking up the road, and then walk up you can walk as far as you want. It goes about 3.5 miles, but you don't have to go 3.5 miles. Just go like a mile. It kind of drops down into the canyon. Once you get off of the Bajada, and you drop down into the canyon, and then have some different creek crossings. Usually they're dry during the monsoon season. If there's some good monsoons, that it could be some actual creek crossings, but you don't even have to go up past that. On Friday night, we just walked up to the first crossing and walked back. And yeah, everyone really enjoyed it. So go ahead and check that out. Let's see, I think this is the last slide I had. So those 3 spots in June: Pepper Sauce Canyon, go there in early June. Danza Trail at Clark Crossing, go there anytime from now through like July to get breeding green kingfisher, and then go to check out the mating Sonoran desert toads and common poor wills. Sometimes the poor wills will be right on the road too, by the way. But do that starting kind of mid to late June, and you won't be disappointed. So those are the 3 spots I'd recommend this month. Any questions, or maybe you have some questions about one of the spots I talked about, or maybe another location that you're kind of wondering about? We have some time for questions here at the end.
Let's see, nothing so far in the chat. So if anybody has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself, and you can raise your hand and unmute yourself. Also, just a few comments, not really questions, but I know some of our northwest Oro Valley residents appreciate you highlighting Pepper Sauce Canyon.
Yeah, it's not far for them.
No, yeah,
If I lived up in Oro Valley,
yeah,
or
they
Saddlebrook,
appreciated you highlighting that for sure.
Yeah. Anyone been up to Pepper Sauce and explored that area? Have any other thoughts? Any of you have any of you ever been there? No one's been there. All right. Well,
So
good.
a long time ago, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, Veronica. Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, this was a few years back. One of the guys who used to live up here in Phoenix, who was part of Maricopa Audubon, moved down that way, and he tried to get like a group of people to come down and run field trips. And there were a lot of trip leaders down there that day, but very few participants. But it was like all over the Oro Valley, Oracle area. It was pretty interesting because there seemed to be quite a lot of places to go in that area.
Yeah, there's certainly Catalina State Park, Oracle State Park. I mean, those are just a few of them, but then also, some of the urban areas, more urban areas like, what's the golf course area up there that they're redoing? That's been a good spot. Or Honeybee Canyon, Catalina Regional Park. Yeah, for sure. I just hardly ever go up that area.
Yeah, it's hard to get to.
It is. Let's see. Anna asked about how's Madera Canyon in June. It is, June's a tough month, but it's also really good. Like you go up Madera Canyon in June. I mean, most likely you're going to possibly see elegant trogon. Like, what could be better than that, right? I feel almost bad not having a spot talking about June and not talking about a spot where you could see elegant trogon. And so what I would do if I was birding Madera Canyon, I would drive up to the top. I would walk just the first portion of Carrie Nation Trail and kind of get by that bench that's up there and just listen for elegant trogon. And once I hear it, then I would just kind of pinpoint which way to walk from the trail on there and try to find that because that's a bird I love. but you know, you have all the different birds that are breeding up there. Hepatic tanager, trying to think, hepatic tanager, black-throated gray warbler. What were we saying,
what
Danito?
about the sulfur belly flycatcher? They'll be
Yeah.
back.
Oh, that's, I know. I knew there was one I was trying to think of, and that was it. Sulfur-bellied flycatcher. They're a little bit later arrival, so they're probably just coming in to their locations now. And so right in that same area where that bench is at, just a little bit up that Carrie Nation Trail, you'll hear the little squeaky toy call of the sulfur-bellied. And so, yeah, sulfur-bellied flycatcher and elegant trogon and plumbeous vireo and hepatic tanager, black-headed grosbeak, they're all right there. So, and then you can go and sit at Santa Rita Lodge and drink in the hummingbirds. So, yeah, it's great.
And then we can find painted red star.
Painted
so-
red star, yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, you're right. Yeah, painted red star is a very common bird right there in Madera Canyon. And how awesome is that? You know, especially if you're coming in from out of town and you're from Washington State or you're from Wisconsin and you're coming to the area. Yeah, you want to see painted red star. You won't get that in Pepper Sauce Canyon unless you go up much higher. But Madera Canyon, yeah, painted red star right there. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. You know, Danito and I are always welcome to take in your questions through email or what have you, and answer any questions you have about these locations. And yeah, be checking our website for different field trips to these areas as well. Oh, Kathy asked, yellow-billed cuckoo, where to see in June? Well, you might luck into one at Pepper Sauce, but if I was, you know, you'll actually get great opportunities for yellow-billed cuckoo right there at Clark Crossing, the Danza Trail. You'll hear them. It's just a matter, you know, they can be pretty high up in the canopy, but that's actually a really good spot for them. And go later, later in June is better. So some yellow-billed cuckoos don't really start coming in until late June, sometimes even early July. But yeah, Montosa is good for yellow-billed cuckoo as well. Las Ciénegas, like Empire Ranch, anywhere you have like the thick cottonwoods. So like San Pedro House, and you're in those cottonwoods, that can be a really good spot as well. That's why like the Danza Trail is good, really thick cottonwoods. Lots of good food resources there for cuckoos. They love the tent caterpillars that are up in those cottonwoods, and they'll just pick those caterpillars out, just munch on them. So getting those thick cottonwoods for the yellow-billed cuckoos.
Well, wonderful. Well, so everybody, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Really appreciative of Luke. Just as a reminder, if you had to join us late for any reason, or if you had to leave early, we were recording this. And so I will send out an email a little bit later this afternoon that will have the link to our YouTube channel where you'll be able to watch this, as well as all these events that we've had in the past. So if you have any other questions, things like that, you can always look at our YouTube channel and see other past events that we've done. Again, thank you all for being here, and a very, very, very big thank you to Luke Safford, who, yes, had a very good reminder there in the chat. We've got our Southeast Arizona Bird Festival coming up in August 7th through 11th. Registration is live now. You can see that on our website, and we encourage you to come out. It's a really, really good time. A lot of birds, a lot of really good, energetic folks. Just a great time to be in the birding community. So I don't know if you can see the chat, Luke, but just a lot of thank yous. Great talks as usual. A lot of really, really positive comments coming in for everybody. So we thank y'all for that, and we hope to see y'all at the next event. All right, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
See you
We'll
later.
some great
Bye-bye.
birds today. All right.
Yep, go
Talk to y'all
birding.
soon.